Hey guys, what's going on? This is Pete Thomas coming at you live with another stream, and a very special stream today as we do the same thing that I did last year, which was a nice little roundup of the E3 stuff, as you can tell by the logo. I always forget that it's like kind of backwards, so yeah, I just wanted to try and get something up really quickly, I guess as quickly as somebody who works full-time and takes care of other shit that he does throughout the day. In terms of basically first impressions of everything that's happened so far at E3. I feel like if I were to have gotten into this a lot earlier, you would have gotten a lot more fangasming for sure. I was hyped up about a bunch of stuff, and now that I've calmed down, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, okay, it wasn't actually all that great. Overall, a really awesome E3. I was really impressed by the stuff that was happening from all the major vendors. Everybody who had a press conference was awesome. The only one I was really left underwhelmed with was actually Nintendo's, believe it or not. I was hoping that they'd come out of the gates, especially with some of the big announcements that came from Microsoft and Sony, that Nintendo would come out with kind of the guns, you know, blazing, like here's all our great IPs you guys have been waiting for, and they started off with a huge bang and then just kind of like went right downhill after that. So it was a bit of a bummer to see, but you know, I was overall pleased with what was going on, and it's just really enforcing everything that was kind of in my mind already, which was that, you know, Sony is taking this, man. Sony is just sweeping the rug up. But that's not to take away from Microsoft, which this was the first conference that I saw. I mean, a lot of people know I'm not a big Microsoft fan, and this was the first conference I looked at them and I was like, hey, that was really cool. So kind of starting in order, you know, just going through and kind of highlighting and lowlighting some of the points, you know. Bethesda started everything off and everybody was just in an uproar. Now, I personally don't play very many Bethesda games, so it was really lost on me, but everybody was hyped over, you know, Fallout 4. They saw the Dishonored game, I guess a sequel of some sort, come out. They saw some stuff for, what was it? The Elder Scrolls. They have like some sort of like card game coming, and then Doom was another one. Everybody was really hyped about Doom. Now, I remember playing Doom a long time ago, back when it was on like Windows 95 or 98 or something really bad like that. And so I guess I could see where all the hype for that comes from, even though that I'm not a huge fan or anything like that. But I guess Fallout 4 is probably the biggest thing that everybody was talking about, and there was a mobile game that was launched with it. I don't have an Apple phone, so I wasn't able to dabble in it, and there was a couple of people who actually asked about it. They're like, hey, is there one coming to Android? And they're like, yeah, in a couple of months. So I'm kind of SOL. I think by the time I actually get a chance to play it on Android, I'll actually have an Apple phone. So, you know, that was kind of the kind of gist of it there. But, you know, everybody was really hyped. Like I said, it was a little lost on me. I tried to grab a bunch of people last minute. I did this last year and didn't even think to put out any kind of feelers or anything to see if I could get anybody to cover like the bases of the developers or games that I'm not familiar with. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to grab anybody fast enough. So it's just me here. So, but anyways, yeah. So, you know, the show started off. Everybody was already really hyped, which got me really hyped for everything that was coming out. So they moved on to Microsoft after that. Microsoft did a really awesome display. I mean, I just really could not say enough about it. Saw some cool footage of, I guess, a lot of games that everybody already knew about. Like Halo 5 came out, the Forza game, or, you know, came out of the gates, not actually released. Forza was talked about. There was, you know, of course, the games that Bethesda talked about that were reshown for here. Some of the cooler announcements that I saw, there was this game by the name of Recore that's coming out that looks really badass. It's made by it's kind of a collaboration. A group from Retro Studios who did the Metroid Prime series is working on it, as well as Inafune, basically the mastermind behind Mega Man. The two of them have gotten together and created this game that just looks phenomenal. I mean, it literally has made me reconsider not having Xbox One. I really am interested in it. The premise behind it is like you're the last person that exists. You have kind of this little core thing that goes around or that you can put into certain robotics, and it basically gives it life. It's like a soul of some sort, and you know the soul has a personality, so it basically gives that personality to these objects that were once inanimate. So looks really awesome. I was really pumped about it. I think it's going to be phenomenal, and like I said, it may be the reason that I get an Xbox One alone. It's just one of those things that I was thrilled. I couldn't believe there was something like that coming around, and because of not having an Xbox, I could miss out on it. So there was definitely the everybody's excited over the announcement of Dark Souls 3. I personally started getting an eye twitch whenever I heard it. I was like, I don't know. I'm still behind on 2 of my Souls games. Have not done Dark Souls 2 yet or Bloodborne. But you know, everybody's hyped about it. I don't remember if it's going to be timed console exclusive or not. I only saw it on the Xbox press conference that I remember. So I was in and out and stuff due to work, so there could have been something that I missed because of that. But you know, it looked like, you know, it's just going to follow up. There were some interesting rumors about it being the last Souls game. So there could be either the end of, you know, that style of gameplay, which I think would be really silly, or they're just talking about getting rid of that IP, the Souls, and maybe moving towards like a Bloodborne 2, or maybe even a new IP altogether with that same sort of, you know, that spiritual successor kind of move. But we'll see whenever it ends up coming around. You know, I don't want to jump the gun or anything like that. We've still got a whole game waiting for us, you know, in the thicket here. So they've only gotten better with each game, so I'm excited to see where Dark Souls 3 takes them, and we'll be very interested to see what ends up happening with, you know, that franchise in and of itself. There was talk about Rare coming back. You know, there's a Kickstarter out there right now. I think it ends very soon if it doesn't end like today. It's called Yooka-Laylee. It's made by the same group who did the Banjo-Kazooie series. And I think Rare is feeling like they're kind of missing the boat right now with keeping, you know, that kind of like those kind of franchises, that kind of fun in Microsoft's hands. So they decided to announce what they called a Rare Replay, which was essentially sorry about the phone, I should probably turn that down. Which was essentially a recap of 30 or so of their old titles that are coming together and going to be available on the Xbox, which looked really cool. There was a lot of old classics there, a lot of new games, or games that I had not seen, you know, revitalized, I guess you could say, in a long time. So was really excited to see that. Again, not something I'll be touching anytime soon, but I think a lot of people with Xbox One should definitely grab that. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think, and very nostalgic for the people who have not gotten a chance to play those games. But the one announcement that I can say that I'm super pumped about, aside from ReCore, is the new IP, Sea of Thieves. I've never seen a game that made me want to be a pirate more than this game. Even Assassin's Creed couldn't do it. So basically it looked like the premise of this game was like it's a multiplayer game of sea warfare. Everybody kind of has their own roles on side of a boat, while they're on a boat, rather, I should say. And they basically just, it looks like seafaring battles. You plop yourselves on these islands. It looks like you can kind of navigate through them and go for, you know, essentially, I hate to compare it to this, but it almost seemed like a Minecraft meets, you know, Pirates. I think that's the name of the game, Pirates. It's that open sea warfare game, something like that. You know, it's just a really cool looking IP, and I think that it's going to be something that a lot of people need to get their hands on. It's going to be one of those sleeper titles that comes out and ends up being, you know, something that just kind of blows the genre out of the water. And kind of with that really ended, you know, some of the big titles. They talked about Gears of War, talked about a controller, and, you know, a couple other different titles here and there. But overall, you know, it was a really solid display. I was really looking forward to it. So, or looking forward to seeing what they kind of come out with in the future. And if it actually tells me, you know, if I go back to this video one day and see, like, did this really make me want to buy an Xbox One. But we'll see. You know, I've been steering clear so far. Maybe I'll wait it out and see if ReCore ends up coming out, or maybe I'll just see if I can borrow somebody's Xbox. Excuse me, I would just like to borrow your Xbox so I could play the cool games that I really want to play. Anyway, so we move on to EA's conference, which was, again, another wow factor for a lot of people. EA has that tendency to kind of have a sink or swim mentality, and it seems like they swam this time around. They launched a couple of different games that I've never played before, but apparently have gotten tons of hype, and smart moves too. With the announcement of the new Star Wars movie, they decided they were going to do a Battlefront game again. A lot of people have talked about Battlefront being like one of the most renowned games in the Star Wars franchise. A lot of people have fun with it, and you know what? It looked epic. I can't say that I would not be interested in playing it, because I would. I'm not a first-person shooter guy at all. I'm not a third-person shooter guy, but it looked like a lot of fun. I saw some interviews with a couple of people. They're saying there can be battles as small as I think it's like 5v5 or 6v6, and as large as, like, you know, 40 players, you know, maybe a 20 on 20 or a 40-player multiplayer battle. So it looked really cool. They showed a lot of footage. I mean, it just gave you those, you know, those nerd chills again, you know, essentially. I just saw them, and, you know, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan myself, and I know that's blasphemy in the nerd realm, but, you know, it was just one of those things where even I could feel the excitement. You know, you just could not. You could not be less hyped about something like that. They did talk about a lot of, I guess I should backtrack a little bit. I almost forgot. So Microsoft announced that the Xbox One is going to have backwards compatibility to the 360 game. And with that, they ended up having this, I guess, barrage of different games that came out that are going to be kind of like retrofitted. So 100 or so, I think, are available, I guess, by the end of this year or right off the bat. I forget which one they said, but it essentially meant that, you know, you can finally play your old games. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, I've been talking about backwards compatibility for ages, and everybody I've talked to has just literally been shitting on me left and right. They're like, backwards compatibility isn't important, you don't need it, and yet the crowd erupted. And every game now that's coming out with a potential new one, like, and that's what I was getting into, Mass Effect, for example. They're coming out with a new game, but they're saying, like, we're gonna bundle all the old games with it just because we've got backwards compatibility. And I think that's awesome. Like, I think that's something that needs to be in all of these consoles, you know? The games outlast the consoles hands down. I've said that from day one. You have to replace your consoles constantly. Why not add the backwards compatibility, charge a little bit more, and call it a day? Like, you know, maybe you only do limited releases of the fully backwards compatible ones or something, you know. I'm not really sure how it works. I'm not sure what it looks like financially, but I mean, it's clear to me that backwards compatibility, as long as we're using disc-based media, is important. It is what people want. It's what I certainly want. You know, I've got this library of games I don't want to get rid of, and I've got 4 different consoles to handle it, you know. It's just a bummer. So, you know, there's those pieces of it. They talked about a couple of different games that people have been looking forward to. There was another Mirror's Edge that was released, and or excuse me, another Mirror's Edge that was teased. So they're thinking February 2016, I believe, is what they're looking for in terms of a release date for that. And Mirror's Edge was one of those games that actually made me enjoy first person. It lets you see the faults of it a little bit, but it was so fluid and so fun to play. I thought it was a really cool announcement to see. One of the games that got a lot of attention was Unravel. It's basically like EA's competition to Little Big Planet, I guess. I mean, that's the closest thing I could think of. But they really talked about some cool things. I laughed because I just remembered a tweet that I had saw where the guy was talking about, as you run around and stuff, your thread unravels from your character, and he's like, and it reminds us of love. And I remember somebody retweeting that and laughing because of how that sounded. It's like, yes, as we have this big ball of love, it's unraveled until there's nothing left. But I understood what he was saying. The dude was super nervous on the stage, and I don't blame him. I probably would be too. I mean, he was shaking. He's holding his little Ravel doll in his hand, and it's just like all over the place. But he was really awesome. I think it's going to be a really touching kind of game to play. It's going to be one of those things that, you know, you're going to want to get your hands on the first one. I can't promise you the sequels are going to be any better if they decide to pursue it, but you definitely want to take a look at this game. It really looks phenomenal. Where I thought EA flopped, and one of those things that was just like the cringeworthy moment of E3 during this moment, I actually think it's the most cringeworthy moment of my experience anyways, was when they talked about the face rendering of the NBA game. The technology is cool. The hoop god that they pulled up there was a joke, an absolute joke. When I saw him, I literally was just like, what the hell are they doing right now? This is Twitter, my Twitter feed erupted with just like, what are we doing here? What is this? And I joked with a lot of my friends and stuff. I said, when I saw Hoop God, I literally wanted to just sell all my games and just be done as a gamer. I'm like, nope, no more, all done. I don't know what they were thinking, but I understood the premise behind it. You know, you can get your face imported into this and be a character. But yes, it was just, oh man, it was a bad moment. But overall, better than EA has ever put together, so was really pumped about that. Good job, EA, for not totally, you know, shitting the bed with us all and putting it all together nicely. You know, I was like, you know, outside of that one moment, I think you guys did pretty well. Now, one of my favorite conferences always is Ubisoft's, because I absolutely adore Aisha Tyler. I think she's hysterical. I think she's a very well-spoken entertainer. She just does her job well, and I think it's Ubisoft's best interest to always keep her around forever and ever, for all eternity. With that being said, there was a lot of great things shown at Ubisoft. They always come, you know, bringing just a great array. You know, a lot of their titles are definitely rehashes and things like that, so you got to be a fan of the franchises to be a part of it. You know, they announced things like the new Assassin's Creed game. They announced the Crew's getting more DLC or some sort of expansion of some sort. They announced this game's getting some more expansion. It's called Trials Fusion. I don't know a whole lot about it, but you know, the stuff like that. They did announce, now I'm a huge fan of Just Dance. They announced that Just Dance 2016 is going to bring some pretty cool content, as well as a streaming service pack where if you download or if you purchase like a subscription-based thing, you'll always have new music and content, which begs to the question of what ends up happening to the game itself. Like, if you can just buy this subscription, do you ever need to buy another game again? Or, you know, I guess there's always going to be a market of people who don't want to have the, you know, the streaming service and want to just buy the new game. So I suppose there's always a market for it. But outside of that, there's, you know, it looked really cool. They had Jason Derulo come out and do a live performance, which I'm not sure how you guys are about him. I think his music's pretty mediocre, but he's a great entertainer. It's one of those things where his hits definitely are catchy, and they play the shit out of them on our radios. So we hear it all the time and everything like that. They, of course, talked about Rainbow Six Siege as well. They talked about a South Park game, which everybody seemed to really enjoy seeing. One of their titles that really intrigued me, though, was For Honor. If you did not see the trailer, highly recommend you seeing the trailer. I don't have the chat up right now, but Muba's been doing a great job inside of my chat right now, posting links and stuff like that. So if he happens to catch this and puts up a link for Honor, seriously, watch that trailer. I've never seen anything. I was actually at the gym watching this press conference, and I'm like running on the treadmill, and all of a sudden I got this like new burst of wind as like all the troops were running into battle and everything like that. It was just incredible, absolutely incredible. It looks like you can play through 3 different kinds of eras, if you will. There's a samurai era, there's a Vikings era, and a knights, like a Crusaders type era. And you basically get to be part of this team, and just the battles look like they can be really, really epic depending on how they do it. They showed on stage like a 4v4 So it kind of reminded me of a Dynasty Warriors bit mixed with a Bushido Blade style of combat, where it's like, you know, if shit happens to you, you got to kind of carry that, and the deaths can be very swift. So I'm not real sure how it's going to play out, and if it's going to end up being one of those things that that end up being, you know, too complicated to actually be fun, or if they're going to actually iron it out to be really cool. But you know, it should be an interesting game altogether. So there was a couple other announcements for games. I'm seeing Anno 2205 and Trackmania Turbo and Ghost Recon's Wildlands. Again, games that I've heard a lot about. There's a lot of hype for them. Definitely outside of my scope of gaming. You know, I'm not a huge fan of anything around those franchises or IPs. So, you know, I'll be definitely keeping my eyes on it and seeing how everything unfolds. I'll be watching more of E3 as it goes out and seeing if I can catch anything more on it. But you know, outside of my realm, so you know, I'll be keeping an eye on it. You have to catch other people who play those games for, you know, their streams and things like that to be able to get a little more of an understanding of what those are about, and you know, how much hype you should have over them versus me, because clearly my hype for them is not all that much. Moving on from there is by far my favorite conference, which is a little unfair to say because it tied in with my favorite third-party developer. So, you know, I can kind of tie the two together. But if I were to say who won E3, which I saw the question pop into chat, I'm going to say that it was Sony for sure. You know what? Actually, before I get into that conference, I do want to mention that I did see Ark for the first time. I saw a lot of people playing it, didn't know a whole lot about it. I just wanted to backtrack. They showed a little bit of Ark. I think it was today or this morning or something like that, and I was blown away by it. I think that I'm actually going to get GF6 into another couple streams. She loved H1Z1, and I think that that's basically H1Z1 with some dinosaurs. Probably some more complex mechanics that exist there, but I think she's gonna love it. The dinosaur taming is by far the best thing I've ever seen. So thank you guys for mentioning that in the chat. Yes, Ark Survival Evolved is what it's called. So that will definitely be up on my stream sometime soon. So be sure to keep your eyes peeled for that. It just looks amazing. I'm really interested in playing it, and I think that GF6 will be interested as well. So anyways, back to Sony. Like I said, I think they really killed it this year. Just blew away competition with all of their announcements. And like I said, a lot of that ties in with Square Enix because I'm a big Square Enix fan. I'm just everything about Square Enix, I am just all ready for it. So Sony comes out of the gate and they're basically, you know, they're confident. They've got this under lock, and for all the good reasons, because one of their announcements was an announcement that fans have been sitting on for ages and waiting and patiently, you know, baiting their breath, hoping that they hear everything about this. You know, they started right off the bat with The Last Guardian, which, holy fuck, like, how does that even happen, you know? Team that did Ico, or however you pronounce it, you know, I've always pronounced it Ico, is coming together to make The Last Guardian, and it's one of those trailers that was just emotionally amazing. I'm so looking forward to it. Can't wait to see it. I'm glad it's not a dead project, because it seemed like it. Last year, I was fairly certain The Last Guardian was done. So I was glad to see that. After that, I mean, Street Fighter V. A lot of people were hyped about Street Fighter 4 when it came around. It got a couple of new renditions, and now Street Fighter 5 is coming. You know, I know you guys have been around my stream for a while. You guys know Don't Get Bodied that's one of his titles, so I'm hoping that gets him back in it. I want to see him. He hasn't been streaming all that much, so I want to see him get back in it with Street Fighter 5. I want to see him play it. It looks good, you know. I'll never be a Street Fighter guy. I'll never be that good. I had a hard time with single player in Street Fighter, let alone the multiplayer. I won't ever touch one of those games again. I was embarrassed to call myself a gamer. They announced two characters. One was Birdie and one was Cammy. Plus, you know, they showed a bunch of old favorites and things like that. Looks like they're sticking with the same art style, which is beautiful, by the way. So, yeah, if you're a big competitive fighter fan, definitely look into Street Fighter V. we finally got to see more of No Man's Sky, which, you know, I've been hyped about. I kind of hoped that the space game that I bought, which the name is blanking me right now, Elite Dangerous, god damn it, how did I forget that, would fill that gap, which it does feel similar, but there's no world exploration. It kind of got like a chunk of it for that. So I kind of split my attention between the two. It's like, you know, Starbound gives me my world exploration, Elite Dangerous gives me my space exploration, and No Man's Sky is basically like the happy peanut butter and jelly, mash that shit together. This is what it is. So, I mean, just overall, I mean, looks amazing. I don't know if they were pre-rendered or if they truly were really playing that on the fly, but man, did it look good. And if the world is as expansive as they made it look, I'm super thrilled for it. I'm ready to go for it. So they announced a couple other titles, which again, you know, going back to the whole, like, I don't really delve into that. Uncharted 4, Hitman, Horizon Zero Dawn, which actually looked pretty badass, were some other games that they came around with. And then they started popping into some of the Square games, which really just blew my mind. I mean, I couldn't even get around the fact that some of the things, as much as I loved seeing everybody that is a fan of Final Fantasy VII squirm, we are now announcing for sure a Final Fantasy VII remake, which, you know, congratulations to you guys, you're finally getting it. You know, like I said, I'm bitter about Final Fantasy VII in general, but, you know, I'll be the first in line to buy it. I'm not going to not support a remake game like that. I'm not going to not support you guys for, you know, basically asking for this for, what was it, 18 years? Something like that. Or maybe I'm thinking of a different franchise. 1997? No, it was 8 years, I think. Or no. Yeah, it was 18 years. Holy shit. I'm so old, you guys. God damn it. 18 years. Wow. Okay, so 18 years you guys have been waiting for that. So yeah, anyways, it's coming out there, and it's not just a upscaled game, by the way. They're totally like refacing this game. It looks phenomenal. Phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it. So, you know, for all the time you've been waiting, it looks like Square Enix is really taking care of you guys. So, you know, congratulations, slow clap for you guys for being able to hold it out and really push for that. So there was that. There was also the other Final Fantasy game, which I should probably be saving this for Square Enix's, but yeah, they talked about that, almost like a brand new game that's in a chibi format, but looks really cool. It looks like you're going to be interacting with monsters a lot more on this one. They announced a Destiny expansion, which, you know, I played Destiny through. I was not a fan of it, but everybody seemed really hype about it. So curious that it's an expansion and not another game. I wonder how long they're going to hang on to the first game and keep releasing expansions for it. But I'll always take a full-fledged expansion over just a minimal DLC kind of thing anytime. So they announced a game called Firewatch, which was not really given a whole lot of detail. It looks like a survivalist kind of game. First person look to it. Looks more single player than all the others. You know, we've been seeing a lot of these survival games be online based where you can have multiple people running around. This one looked more like a single player adventure. Actually had some intrigue to it, so I'll be very curious. It almost reminded me of psychological thriller kind of thing, so should be interesting to see for sure. There was the Assassin's Creed again announced for Sony. Batman Arkham Knight was also announced. So that'll be interesting. I think they're talking about that game being more open world, as opposed to, you know, being as I guess cut and dry as, you know, the previous two games. If I remember correctly, Arkham City was a little more open world, but still wasn't quite where they wanted it to be. And it sounds like Arkham Knight is actually going to be there. You know, again, not at being a first-person shooter guy. Black Ops was also announced. I know it's a lot of hype for a lot of people. Not really a big thing for me. So, you know, they had that announced. They had Disney Infinity, another, you know, talk about Star Wars, and then finally more Uncharted stuff. which came about. So they also talked about the one of the biggest surprises, I think, and the way they brought it out was really cool. You know, they had this interview with the gentleman who created the series, and it was one of those things where he was like, you know, talking about he didn't know how to bring this sequel out. And I think a lot of independent, or a lot of the old school developers feel that way. They feel like, you know, when they started inside of their companies, they had like all of the creative direction that they wanted to have, and as these developers or producers started kind of putting this hammer on them, they felt more and more restricted. Once they finally, you know, realized like things like Kickstarter exists and stuff like that, they kind of find a way to branch out, reach out to all these people, and they are able to basically create a game that they want to make, how they want to make it. And so, you know, it was with great pleasure. I went and backed it immediately, and it was with great pleasure and with, I guess, a lot of cheering and tears. I'm sure there was a lot of people who were just like, I saw somebody in the crowd like just literally holding his head because he couldn't believe it. But Shenmue 2 or 3 rather was announced, and everybody was really hyped about it. You know, I'm hyped about it. I love the Shenmue games. It was just a lot of fun. I think I only played the second one, actually. I never played the first one. So I'm wondering what they're going to do with that, if they're going to try and bundle in the first and second, see if they can work in, you know, how they can get those to work together. I'm not real sure what they're going to do, or maybe they'll give us, like, on the media, some sort of, like, flashback or something that we can read, because it seems like everything was... It seems like this is going to be the end of the story, and I don't really know a whole lot about it, so... I'm going to need something like that to truly put this game, like, you know, to rest, if you will. But it'll be really cool to see. I'm really excited about it. Everybody else is hyped about it. It met its goal in like an hour or something like that, which is $2 million. I think everybody just jumped on their phones and just started backing the shit out of it. So, so there's that. We were all very hyped. I know everybody on my Twitter was really hyped about it. I was looking forward to it. So a lot of fun there. Really anxious to see it in action. You know, I hope that they meet all their goals and expectations. There's a lot of doubt around the $2 million mark, but I honestly think that if you guys keep an eye on it, I'll be very surprised if it doesn't reach somewhere in the neighborhood of like $7 to $10 million. But, you know, don't mark my words for that. You know, outside of that, they did announce some other things. Sony is going to try their hand at basically a television provider. They're calling it the PlayStation Vue, V-U-E, which looks really cool. I think it'll add a little competition there. I've been eyeballing it myself. I think that it'll be something that's worthwhile to look into, if not actually utilize. So they also announced a couple other things here and there. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything. I'm just going to try and scroll through my chat real quick to see. I'm leaving that one for Square Enix. I'm sure you guys know what that is. Not sure. Okay, I don't see anything that's standing out right now, so we're going to go ahead and put Sony's to rest. Overall, really cool announcements. I love that Sony's overall goal has always been to be an overall entertainment media center, and they're really pushing towards that. So not just with games, but even with the TV stuff. I think they have a very strong vision of what they want, and they're really pushing hard to achieve that. And you can't really knock them for that. I think that, like I said, overall they had by far one of the best displays in their conference. It was amazing. I was super pumped about it. So great job, Sony, for really making E3, you know, what it is, you know, showing us that you don't have to lose hope in games, even though, you know, you guys are just always brewing in the background, and we really love that. So great job, Sony. Great job to the third-party developers for keeping us all on our toes and really blowing us away. We've had a couple of E3s that have been a bummer, and so this one definitely felt like a win. Moving onwards to Nintendo, which was by far my least favorite. You know, Nintendo came out of the gate strong with their announcement of a new Star Fox game, but we already knew about it. It was not a surprise, apparently. It was a surprise to me. Everybody's like, we already knew that, we already knew that. I was like, I didn't know. And it looks really cool. It looks like one of those, like they took bits from the N64 game, a little bit from Star Fox Assault, and kind of mashed it all together into this really cool game. I'll be very curious to see how badly the Wii U controller detracts from the game, but everybody who's touching it on the floor seems like they're really, really enjoying it. It says it doesn't really take a whole lot. It doesn't really take a whole lot out of the game or anything like that, so I'll be curious to see it. They're calling it Star Fox Zero, trying to hype it up as like a brand new, like it doesn't really touch anything, any other games storyline wise or anything like that. So I saw a lot of cool transformations. Being the tank, you could transform into kind of like a hover ship. You were this kind of gyrocopter looking thing. The R-Wing transforms into like a little walker type deal, which was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Like, obviously I'm speechless trying to figure out how to even talk about it, but it looked really cool, so I'm excited for that. That's going to be on my must-buy list. So I'll be, as long as it doesn't flop somewhere in development, I'll definitely be having that. So they announced 2 Zelda games this time around, I assume to try and appease us for the fact that Zelda 2016, as it's colloquially known as, is not coming out until 2016. But that big open world environment one, if you guys remember that. So they announced 2. One was the Triforce Heroes game, which was a 3-player, which is an odd number to be working with, literally and figuratively. A very much stylized like the Zelda 4 Swords adventure, but with 3 people. It looks like they're going to finally release us of our tethers of local co-op and give us online co-op. Hopefully with anybody we want to play with, so that we can always experience the way that game is meant to be played. They announced a lot of features that deal with that, like the dimensional thing that they had from the 3D Worlds game, which is A Link Between Worlds. There we go. They have a totem feature, which looks like the links can kind of stack up on their shoulders to get the co-op feel out of that. So they also announced, which we already knew about, the Hyrule Warriors Legends is what they're calling it for the 3DS, which looks like I don't know if it's a brand new game or if it's the other game on the Wii U but with more enhanced content or something like that. I'm not real sure, but it looks like it's cool. So if you didn't pick it up on the Wii U, definitely pick it up on the 3DS, because it is a solid game. I'm hoping with the added hardware it won't have any kind of slowdowns or anything like that, and you'll have a lot of fun. If anything, pick it up for Tetra and the King of Red Lions. How the hell did we not get those characters on the Wii U? Because that looked awesome. So they flashed a bunch of other titles, not a whole lot about them. The Fire Emblem game, which looks like it's kind of taking a leaf out of the Awakening book, which Awakening was amazing. So if you did not get that, make sure you look into this one, because it looks like it's going to be good. They mentioned Xenoblade Chronicles X, which we already know about. They showed, I think, a longer trailer, a little bit of in-game footage. And they gave a release date for it finally, so we'll be able to see that come to fruition. I still have not played my first Xenoblade game, so I really need to get on it if I'm going to even consider looking at that game. There were 2 Animal Crossing announcements this time around. One was Happy Home Designer, which looks like it's going to focus less on the town building and more on actually making your house as functional as possible. So if you remember, in most of the games, by designing your house and everything like that, you got yourself a score that came from I forget what the group was. I think they were like called the Happy something or other. And they would send you a point value that came with it, and you obviously got rewards and things like that for having a really well-functioning house. Well, it looks like they're going to really delve into that, and it's going to be a lot on interior design this time around. Could be great, could be a flop, I'm not real sure. I was kind of on the fence about it. It was really hype at first because I got really emotional about the Animal Crossing franchise. I love it. I think it's a wonderful series, but I think focusing too much on the house might be a little too restricted for me, but we'll see what happens as it comes out. And they also announced a Animal Crossing Mario Party Cross game, which was kind of interesting. I don't really know a whole lot about it. Just looked like it was Mario Party that was mixed with, you know, an Animal Crossing skin on it. Looks like the amiibos are going to be a big feature in all of the games, by the way. They were announced having functionality all over the place, so the amiibos are not going anywhere anytime soon, which to me doesn't mean anything because I don't have any amiibos. But if they are going to make a big push and keep these things going, they really, really got to bring back the old ones. I'm tired of fighting around to try and find the ones that I want for $50 or $60 when they originally, you know, advertised for 14 or 12 or whatever the hell they were. They also released they gave a release date for Super Mario Maker, which I'm really excited about. I'm glad they're not doing another actual Mario game. I think that giving us the tools to create our own Mario worlds is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. I'm definitely going to bring it on stream for you guys. So there's going to be that as well. So be sure to check that out here and or at your own place September 11th actually, which is an interesting release date, but you know, maybe we'll see a lot of, you know, memorial type levels for the holiday when that comes around as well. They also talked about Yoshi's Woolly World, which looks just as adorable as it has always been. They had like an intimate interview with a lady who kind of designed it all together, which was awesome to see. I loved Kirby Epic Yarn, and I think that Woolly World is really going to follow in that same footsteps. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a future co-op stream for sure. So really looking forward to that. There wasn't a whole lot of information given on that one as well, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. So it was adorable, exactly what you'd expect from that style of game. I don't even like talking about this right now, and I'm sad that I am, but I feel like I've got to mention it. But I threw up in my mouth and had to swallow it whenever I saw the Metroid game get announced. Just appalled, absolutely appalled at what I saw there. I could not believe that, excuse me, I could not believe that what I was seeing was what they were trying to label a Metroid game. It was a 4-person co-op game that just looked like absolute garbage. I'm not even going to consider it. I'm not even going to watch anything else about it. It's getting bundled with a 4-player game where you shoot a ball around. I was like, I mean, just creeper chills the entire time. I have no words for how disgusted I was that they could ever put a Metroid game, a Metroid label on that kind of a game. It was just bad all around. Not looking forward to it. You might as well have just never announced a Metroid game at all. Like, I didn't want it. I don't want it. Take it back, Nintendo, please. Just take it. I don't even want it. They also announced a brand new Mario game that is crossing over the Mario and Luigi Saga games with Paper Mario. They kind of broke, I guess it would be called the fourth wall, because the 3D Mario can meet with the Paper Mario, and so on and so forth, with the Bowser, the Peach, and the Luigi. They all run into each other at some point. So really interesting style to put together, but makes perfect sense because they were both RPG styled games. So it was really cool to see. Definitely a title I want to look into. Hopefully it's going to be released on a console and not a handheld. So if it is a console-based game, then I will stream that for sure. If not, then I probably won't be able to, just because I don't have a capture card for my 3DS. They also announced a game called Yokai Watch, which I don't know a whole lot about. It reminded me of a Japanese game styled like Pokemon. But I talked to a friend of mine on Twitter by the name of Platelumnar, Natalie. I go by Natalie. She was talking to me and she said that it was a much anticipated Western release game. So apparently a lot of people were looking forward to that. And you know, there's not a whole lot to say. I don't know a bunch about it. It looked cool, but you know, if you're interested in seeing more about it, you should probably check out the trailer and kind of get a peg for yourself. didn't really get a whole lot out of it, so you'll probably be in the same boat as me. The last thing they mentioned was also there's more Mario, I guess, announced towards the end. One was the tennis game, which looks like they're adding in this like gigantic feature. Like I saw a giant Mario running around, just like totally spiking the ball on the other team. And there was another one where 2 Mario characters are going to be making it into the new Skylanders Supercharged game as amiibos. There's like a click feature now, where if you click it one way, it's an amiibo, and if you click it another way, it's a Skylanders acceptable like icon or unit or whatever you want to call it, character. That's what I'm thinking of. So you'll be able to play as a Donkey Kong and a Bowser inside of this game. If you've never played the Skylanders games, they're definitely worth at least a playthrough once. I'm done with them. I've got my fair share of fun out of them. They would milk me for all of my money if I continued to buy them. So I gave up on them after the first game, and you know, that's it for me. So, anyways, overall underwhelming display from Nintendo. I was hoping for something a little bit more, not even like Zelda related, just something that really was like, wow, Nintendo, you did it again. You truly revolutionized your games. And I feel like they get focused so hard on something that's hardware based that they forget how to make a really good game. Like it's sad to know that Super Mario Maker is their best game, and it's not even really a game. It's more like an editing tool. So yeah, their focus on just having, you know, all the amiibo stuff is basically their focus. The Wii U is, you know, they're no longer focusing on the controller, which is what we asked them to do, and now they're focusing on amiibo. So like I said, they get their heads stuck on this one piece of hardware and they just kind of run with it because they think that's where they should be, and it just doesn't work out for them. So overall, very disappointed. A couple of titles that I'm looking forward to. Nintendo didn't do it. They didn't do it for me. And then the last bit, of course, is my all-time favorite, Square Enix, and I am thrilled beyond words. Square Enix, you guys did a great job. You know, I kind of tie you in with Sony as, you know, part of you guys helping out with making Sony's press conference so amazing. But, you know, you guys did it. For third-party developers, for me, I was very happy with what I saw. So glad that you guys are picking up the titles that we want to see and everything like that. And even the titles that, you know, I didn't want to see, but everybody else wants to see. Just really happy overall. So the biggest thing I want to talk about is definitely their trolling that they did with Kingdom Hearts, man. They really pushed our buttons with this one. So they started off talking about Kingdom Hearts, and they're hyping everybody up and everything like that. The developer, or excuse me, I think he was either the director or the producer, one of those two. He comes out and he's talking to us and he's like, I know you're really looking forward to this and we're glad to bring it to you. And they released this iOS Android Kingdom Hearts game. And it looks beautiful. It looks like a lot of fun. Like, I'm going to be picking it up because I think it looks great. But when the presentation was over, there was literally 5 claps. At least. I mean, I could literally count them. That's how little claps there were. Like, people were just pissed that he could even do something like that. And I think he knew that because he comes out and he's very sheepish again. And he's like, how about that, guys? Yeah, is that right? And, you know, everybody's just looking at him stone-faced. They're like, seriously, why would you do that? You're fucking with my emotions here. But then he finally comes out and releases Kingdom Hearts 3. He talks about another trailer, or shows another trailer, which has a lot more gameplay in it. I personally was not very impressed by the gameplay, but I get everybody's hype. You know, we've been looking forward to kind of the end of an era type game, and I think that Kingdom Hearts 3 can be it. There was a couple of different things that were there that were cool to see. But, you know, overall, I think everybody's just happy that the game hasn't died. So again, Square Enix, great job with pulling out a title that nobody was expecting to see. They did talk about a lot of Eidos games, which I'm not a, I don't follow many of them. I don't play any of them. Just Cause 3 was one. Hitman was one. Tomb Raider was one. They all look like great games and everything like that, just not up my alley or anything. So, be sure to check them out. It's funny because I was making a joke about the Tomb Raider one where they showed like this huge glacier asteroid scene where like things were falling apart, everything was breaking, and Lara Croft was just running around doing all this crazy shit. It just looked like there was a lot of stuff happening at the same time. And all I was thinking in my head was, all he's doing is holding the up button. Like, he's just holding up on the joystick, and all that shit's happening already. So I don't know why everybody's getting hyped out like it looks like a great thing, And she jumps, and then you press A real quick. And it's like quick time events like that. So, those games, it's hard for me to get hype about. If you're not able to interact a little bit more than holding up and pressing buttons at a certain time, like, it's not enough for me. So, overall, though, people who look forward to those titles, I'm glad you guys are getting those games and things like that. So, good job to you guys for seeing those come out. I think we all kind of expected those to be around, though. Of course, we went back to the Final Fantasy games again. They were announced and shown. World of Final Fantasy was the cute one again. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a console game, which I was not expecting, and a Vita game, so that's really cool. I think a lot of people overlooked that, and I think that's something that should be really pointed out, is that they're still trying to keep the Vita alive, which was, there was not a whole lot of Vita talk, which kind of worries me. I have a Vita. I barely touched it. But, I'm hoping that it doesn't just die and they still show some love to it. But yeah, the world of Final Fantasy looks like a brand new IP, something that's going to be a lot of fun, and it'll be here. So be sure to take a peek at that. I think a lot of people were really looking forward to some of the new titles that they announced, which they talked about Nier. Which was something that I have and never have gotten into, but apparently is critically acclaimed for its soundtrack and for being a really solid game. So I want to get that on stream so that we can check it out and see it together and see if it's something that's worth the sequel that they're talking about. But it looked beautiful. I'm really excited to see the title come back. It's one of those things that was like, I feel like it was a sleeper title and I'm just missing out. I'm probably the one at fault here. So everybody is looking for that. So, it's like I said, not something that I had been paying attention to, caught me out of left field, but I'll now be definitely keeping my eye on it because I think it's worthwhile. And the other one that they talked about was Star Ocean. I think it's, Star Ocean 5, but I don't know if there was like a working title that went with it and stuff. We haven't seen a Star Ocean game since the one on the 360. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what that one has to offer and really getting back into... Oh, I lied. It did come out for the PS3. It was Star Ocean International, I think it was. So really looking forward to seeing that one in action and seeing it go. They showed a little bit of gameplay. I've always liked the Star Ocean series. I'm a little behind on my gameplay for them, but it seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. So, it also looked beautiful, by the way. I guess I should mention that. But most of the trailers do. They show a lot of footage from... What happened to my music? It showed a lot of footage that's the CG images and stuff like that. So it all looks good. Hopefully it'll carry on into the next gen systems. The last new game, which it looked like a mobile game, was Tomb Raider Go, which I've been really into mobile games lately. So I'm really interested in seeing Tomb Raider Go in action. They changed it around to be less action oriented and more of a turn-based game. So it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Something that'll be great to carry with you and kind of give you that same feel. The art looked very much like a Supergiant Games, the people who brought you Bastion and Transistor. So if you're interested in that kind of gameplay, I would definitely recommend checking out the trailer for that. So be sure to take a peek whenever you get a chance for that. And then the last thing that Square Enix talked about was a brand new IP. They're titling it Project Setsuna, which, you know, they didn't give a whole lot about it. There was no details really around it. Just a couple of screenshots which looked, or not even screenshots. It's more like concept art that looked really pretty, but you know, overall, really, you know, a cool thing. You always like seeing new titles from them, so I'll be interested in looking forward to what they come out with it. And I'll be, you know, keeping track of that the whole way through. So hopefully, you know, through my streams and stuff like that, I'll be able to keep you guys all posted on what happens through Project Setsuna as it unfolds. And I realized all through this that I forgot to mention one of the other games that actually really caught my eye was the I think it's either called Beyond Eyes or Behind Eyes, something like that. But it's about the blind girl who is looking for her lost cat. Just absolutely gorgeous. Gave me all of the feels. There seems to be one of those games every single time we go through an E3. So I'm hoping that we end up seeing that game come out on all platforms, not just Microsoft, which is where I think it ended up being. But it just looked beautiful. I was really excited about it, and was really hoping to you know, hoping to see more on it. So be sure to check out that trailer as well. So with all of that being said, my voice being hoarse and me being sweaty beyond belief because it's so flippin' hot in this room, that is my E3 roundup for this segment of our Mode 7. I haven't had a Mode 7 in a long time, and I really, really want to try and get it back, at least like maybe once every couple of months or something like that. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you are there. I would love to get more of you guys together. I would like to do a after E3 roundup kind of thing. So if you know anybody who's interested and want to get people together, I'd like to get 4 individuals, you know, from different backgrounds and things like that to come on to like a roundtable panel, and let's just talk about it. Let's talk about what we're excited about, what flopped for us, you know, anything like that. So, you know, let's just get together and have a good time, you know. But yeah, you know, that's my first impressions of the E3, kind of like the big conferences, the big roundup for me. Overall, like I said, if I go back to saying who I thought won, I definitely think Sony / Square Enix kind of took the cake on that one. I think Nintendo came in dead last, just not being able to really handle, you know, and give us what we want. You know, they're just not listening the right way. They listen to some things and they don't listen to others, and we end up with kind of like a half-hearted mess all around. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I am going to be out for Mode 7, but I will be also getting myself ready for a mini stream here. So yeah, just hang tight while I get everything situated. So thanks again for watching Mode 7 and for the E3 2015 roundup. And like I said, be sure to keep your eyes peeled. I'd like to get everything together for a bigger roundup come a later date. So take care, guys, and I'll see y'all soon.